The Obi-Wan Kenobi series was a disaster, and when you've released something that bad, keeping quiet about it is a legitimate marketing strategy. But it's one that Disney has failed to do. Their writer before came out and said, "Oh, we haven't broke canon at all, it's just in the audience, they just don't know the true lore." That was a mistake. And now the original writer has come out and spoken about his thoughts about the series, what would have changed with Reva, and what we're gonna get if there's a season 2. And if you thought it was bad before, hell, you've seen nothing yet. Because Obi-Wan Kenobi was originally visioned as a trilogy. Whether that's a hint that we might be getting 3 TV series is anyone's guess at this point. Disney needs as much content as they can get for Disney Plus, and they don't seem to be too fussed about the quality of it. Because while this guy was credited as a writer for several of the episodes in the series, it turns out he just wrote the original movie, which was then adapted into a TV series. And it's really strange, because it says he spent a year to a year and a half working on this script, and having seen the TV series, I really have to ask what you were doing in that time. If you said you'd spent an hour on it while sitting on the toilet, I would have believed you. But when you say you're spending a year to a year and a half, I can only assume you were getting paid by the hour. And he says that Joby came in and took his script and turned it from 2 hours into 6. But the show was 6 episodes, not 6 hours. A lot of the episodes actually only had 32 to 34 minutes of footage in it. Even the ones where it went to 54 only came to about 42 minutes, once you took out all of the crap. So at best, you're talking, 4 hours for the entire series? And I think that's probably being generous. Take out all the travelling in cars and long stairs across the room, and you probably come back down to the original 2 in the first place. But I am thankful that the Kenobi series wasn't actually ever made into a movie, because movies are a lot harder to ignore or write off when it comes to not being canon. And for that, we can only thank the fact that Solo lost money, and that's the sole reason it actually got cancelled in the first place. Because for anyone who thinks that this series would have been better as a movie, I have to ask you, this is the same script and the same characters. Nothing about it would have changed, because the direct tries to claim that same argument. Oh, it'd be so better if it was just done with Disney's movie money, as if the main problem with Kenobi was that it was made on a tighter budget, or that the CGI fell apart, rather the fact that its plot was crap, its characters were crap, and no one in it could act. I think those are far bigger problems than the fact that some of the makeup was poor. From the direct's own argument, it just seems like they're trying to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. But until you actually focus on the main problem, the fact that the writer wrote a terrible script in a terrible time period with a terrible idea, none of it's going to work. Because if this 6-episode series with half-an-hour episodes already managed to waste $100 million, I'm already thinking, where on earth did that go? A movie budget would just be throwing more good money in after bad. But the strangest thing for me is how he thinks he's going to get 3 stories out of this. And it turns out that his idea for the rest is just going to be like his idea for the first one was. He's going to make a problem, break canon, and then spend the rest of the series trying to fix it. And then, if they follow his storyline, we're going to get that repeated for season 2. Because he says when he pitched the Obi-Wan story to Lucasfilm, he wanted to say that there's 3 different evolutions that the character has to make in order to grow from Obi-Wan to Ben, which is exactly nonsense. The entire point of the prequel trilogy was to make that character line up. Any deviations from that is deliberately you breaking his character, so then you can try and get back onto the same path anyway. You can see that when in the first episodes they broke him and just made him a whiny little emo brat. That wasn't the character at the end of the prequel trilogy. That's something some people liked because they thought they'd break in that scenario, but that's a very modern attitude. All previous attitudes used to be, if you have trouble in your life, suck it up and deal with it. Now is not the time. And it wasn't the time here, because he's got to defend Luke, and the character that we saw wouldn't have been able to fight his way out of a paper bag, let alone defend Luke. He destroyed his entire life's work. The only reason he still existed, all because he was a little bit sad. Surrender to the will of the Force, transport your will, surrender your will, and leave the kid alone, which seems ridiculous of an idea to me. Oh, we're just going to let fate take its course and everything will be sorted out for us. That's got nothing to do with any kind of teaching at all. If you just believe the Force is going to sort out everything for you, then you wouldn't need to fight or train in the first place, because the Force will just do as it wills. And if you do think that the Force will just sort everything out and it'll all be fine and you shouldn't even take action, then why did we have a series about going after Leia in the first place? Hey, the Force would have sorted her out, it all would have been fine. He directly contradicts himself, and the reason he does it is simply because he doesn't want to say, we didn't want to make a movie about Luke, we wanted to make a story about Leia, and so we just made up some nonsense so he could shove her into the story where she didn't belong. So instead, we get a nonsense sentence which literally makes no sense even by his own internal logic. But then the next movie, or the next TV series, that's going to be worse, because that one focuses on the moment where Obi-Wan sacrifices himself in A New Hope. It's a great moment that makes you cry, but if you stop to think about it, it's a pretty sudden thing. To go fighting a guy to see Luke and going, I'm going to die. You know, to me, I thought that required forethought. That required pre-acceptance that that's going to happen. Yeah, because no parent has ever sacrificed themselves in an instant for their child at all. It's not as if thousands or millions of years of evolution have literally ingrained that into parents that you will die for your child to preserve the species. But no, now, for some reason, you'll only sacrifice yourself for family or someone you consider family if you've predicted the future in some way. Because Obi-Wan's selfish. He's not going to sacrifice himself for Luke. Not unless Qui-Gon has actually come along and told him that he must. With him saying there's a moment coming where you're going to have to sacrifice yourself for good. And Obi-Wan is like, what? No, I'm here to help. Oh no, I can't. So hey, if you thought in the second series we're going to get Obi-Wan as a strong, masculine character, no. Now, they've turned him into a little bitch. Only by seeing the future does it get him to accept that he's going to die. And that he's going to die at a willingly crucial moment. That was the second evolution, the second film, and the second story. To me, that's really interesting. And like I said, universal. Oh, it's a universal thing that everybody always gets someone to come along and tell them the future. Yeah, everyone on Earth all knows their preordained destiny of the day they're about to die. I think we can all associate with that and agree with that sentiment. I mean, I'm not surprised that the second series focuses on Obi-Wan being incredibly selfish and having to come to terms with the fact that there might be someone else in the universe that's more important than he is. At this point, the only thing I'm surprised about is that he's not doing it for Leia. But the strangest part of the interview is where he's talking about his movies getting cancelled. As he says, it was Solo that changed the direction of the movies so they didn't get made. I like Solo personally, but it hadn't made a lot of money. But just because it didn't hit a certain number, they had to think just because the audience didn't like it, just because the fans didn't like it, just because it wasn't profitable, I can't believe they cancelled my movie. It just goes to show how self-absorbed the people are in the different areas of Hollywood that they don't even consider that it has to actually be good. That they don't even consider that this is a business and the audience has to like it. Oh no, I mean, we get a lot about how it crushed them, how they were devastated, absolutely devastated. But nothing about the audience in the entire statement. No, instead, we got, I'm glad it got made. I'm glad the show got made. I'm proud of my history that got told. I'm glad that my characters are all through it. I'm glad that I got credit for it. I wish they'd been able to make my movies. There's a lot of I's and me in that statement, but I think we also get the confirmation that this story is his. These characters are his, and that means the disaster that this show was his. The characters weren't good, the plot wasn't good, and it had holes all the way through it. But apparently, he's more than happy with it. He's more than happy with how it turned out, and if everyone in the crew agrees with that, then we're going to get his ideas for season 2. But hey, he's already got his superpowers from Leia. Maybe she's going to be the one to convince him that actually he should die for somebody else as well, just because she's so much better than he is. But there was a major deviation from the movies to the TV show, and that is what happened to Reva. It turns out that the leaks were right. They were just right for the wrong script. Obi-Wan Kenobi killed off Reva in the original movie script, and I think this goes to show you how little they actually changed from the movie script to the TV series, because if all the leaks came from the movie script, and they turned out to be true except for the end, then it really didn't change much at all. And it could actually be that all those long looks and car traveling things were simply there to pad out that script, because they didn't want to add anything to it. And as it turns out, Reva's fate was changed to accommodate a season 2. Because while BT has said that Reva was his creation, that he created Reva all the way through, honestly, that's not something I'd brag about myself. I'd be keeping that one really under wraps. Because he had changed Reva's story so that she didn't know Anakin was Vader, although the story still doesn't make sense even in this paragraph, because apparently she believed the lies that the Jedi were plotting a coup to take over and get power, and that they were stopped by the clone troopers. So she believed she was hunting Jedi because she believed that Jedi were the worst. Okay, but even if she didn't know Anakin was Vader, and she just knew that Anakin killed her friends, you're gonna have to explain to me why Anakin is killing her friends. Because Anakin was with the clone troopers, killing all of her friends. We saw the clone troopers in this series itself killing her friends and other Jedi in the temple. So what, are you going to say that the Jedi were indoctrinating the kids and the kids were also part of the coup? And if they were doing that, why didn't she know about it? Because she was part of the kids that were all being slaughtered at the time and just lived because she could survive a lightsaber. And if all of that is true and she happened to believe that she was being indoctrinated by the Jedi, then why would it matter if she knew that Anakin was Vader? Because Anakin was on the side of the clone troopers, which she liked because she thought they were stopping a coup. So if she flipped the script and thinks that Jedi are bad guys and the Sith are good guys, then it shouldn't matter whether she knows that Anakin is Vader at all, except for the fact that she knows that Anakin killed the Jedi. But if Anakin killed the Jedi with the clone troopers, she would know that they were on the side of the good guys. So she should think that him killing her friends was a good thing. None of this makes any sense. That is the quality of writer that we've got here. Someone that can't even come up with his own idea in one paragraph that still sticks together. It really does show that this show was doomed from the start. Whether it was a TV series or a movie, the problem was the writing. Because she wants the reveal of Darth Vader to be the thing that flips it around to go, oh, Anakin was Darth Vader and Anakin killed my friends. But you think that clone troopers are the good guys. So Anakin was working with them, and so he's one of the good guys as well. So would Darth Vader. No, I thought I was over the Kenobi disaster, but just getting back into the writing makes it all the more obvious just how little care went into any of the story to make sure it even makes sense. And it's not complicated, you've only got good guys and bad guys, and he can't even keep those straight in his head because he's determined to put twists in, subvert expectations, hides things from characters or the audience. And the issue is, he loses track of who's on whose side, and so none of it makes any sense. It's because none of this is written from the point of view of the characters. It's written with plot points in mind which the characters must meet, rather than making a situation and having the characters act naturally within that situation, making the plot flow from that point onwards. Instead, he's designed little set pieces and then just trying to work out desperately how we can get from set piece to set piece. So when it comes down to it, the only improvement of his original script is that actually, as the leaks did say, she did get killed in Vader, so we wouldn't have got to season 2 of Reva, which if Disney actually cared about audience opinion, we wouldn't anyway. Reva is basically just another Quan from Halo, a character that seems very forced into the story just because they wanted her to exist, rather than one that actually fit in it or contributed to it in any way. They wanted to tell Reva's storyline and knew she couldn't have a series of her own, so they forced it into Obi-Wan's. But Reva didn't really contribute to Obi-Wan's story at all. And he even admits that Reva was never created to be about Obi-Wan. So I have to question why she was in this series at all, and it turns out he created her because of Darth Vader. Because the fact he could never kill Vader, you know, making Obi-Wan one of the most evil men in the universe, because now he's responsible for everyone Darth Vader kills into the future, he says that is going to make the show a bit of a downer, so he wanted to save someone, and that's why he created Reva. Yes, that's right, Darth Vader killing Reva was meant to be the happy point of the show. And the entire thing to me just reeks of laziness and ineptitude. Laziness because they took a script that wasn't very good and then just converted it into a TV series, seemingly not changing much about it at all. Oh, we altered the ending and we made it a bit longer. Wow. I mean, all those scenes of riding off into the distance, staring at the horizon, yeah, they really needed to be in. They didn't alter it, they didn't fix the plot holes, and in fact, as we saw, even when they did change some of the characters, like Reva, and you think, well, maybe that's why her motivation screwed up. No, when you go back to the original script, her motivation still didn't make sense. This was a character that was destroyed from the start at the very core of her writing. She was conceived simply to be slaughtered to make the audience happy. Unfortunately, he didn't go into the specifics of whether Disney exaggerated how much she was in the series when compared to the movie, or how much Leia was. Both of those characters seem as if they really just don't fit and were just forced into it for the usual reasons. What should have been a story about Luke instead ignored him entirely, or because the writer wanted this to be a show about Obi-Wan needed to let him go for some reason. But after hearing all of the comments are going, no, well, in my script she didn't actually know that Anakin was Vader, and then just make out another paragraph which made absolutely zero sense about the creation of her character as well, just goes to show that these writers have no idea what they're doing. People can talk all day about the various different instances which go against canon, but this isn't even about that. This is just from an internal perspective. Does it even make sense in its own show or its own movie? And the answer's no. If these are the people which Disney are hiring to write multiple movies for them, then it's no wonder that they turn out trash. If these are the scripts that they're adapting into their TV shows for Disney Plus, then it's no wonder they turn out to be trash. Because as the direct says itself, The goal for Disney is to pump out as much content for as cheaply as possible, something that both Star Wars and MCU projects have struggled to overcome. Except they referenced it when it came to graphics or makeup, something which I'm really not that bothered about. But writing, you can't cheap out on. You can't hire people who can't do the work, and yet that seems to be exactly what they're doing. What they need at Disney is someone to go through and just point out all of these mistakes, because if I can do it just watching a TV series, then they can definitely employ someone over there as part of their $100 million budget to do exactly the same, and the entire thing will make a lot more sense. Except they don't want to do that, because that would mean having someone point out that actually they're not very good at their jobs. And it seems that Hollywood would rather pump out crap content after crap content, and instead just try and gaslight the audience or attack them and call them every name under the sun, rather than realizing the truth, that they actually don't have the talent to do this, and these companies need to be entirely restructured, because something at the very heart of these businesses just doesn't work anymore. And until they're willing to do that, until they're willing to accept criticism, rather than preemptively attack their own audience which they want money for, then unfortunately, we're going to be ending up in a very, very similar place, with Obi-Wan Kenobi being the disaster that it is, along with its future series. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe, more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.